1, 2, 3.
Are you ready? Well, here we go.
I'm Lisa Mitzel, and this is Condition to Win. Hey, friends, I am so glad you're here. I've been thinking of you a lot while I prepared this show. This is part 2 of The Signs of Hurting with Lisa Terry, and this is such a great conversation. We're talking about noticing the signs of emotional struggles and other difficult issues in the gym. Part 1 was so real and honest. Make sure you listen to that show too. And before we go further, in the first show, I shared my why for doing this podcast, but there is more. Last year, I got a wake-up call when the Utah Gymnastics team was being investigated and when Kara Aker and Kim Tesson spoke up about the abuse they experienced on the Utah Gymnastics team. I felt so much sadness for Kara, Kim, and the other girls who transferred from the team to compete elsewhere. And then I started having flashbacks on my own past, and I began reflecting on my time at Utah and also my time as a college coach at Stanford University. I realized more deeply that I experienced verbal and emotional abuse in my gymnastics career, and I also was the cause of emotional pain for some young women that I coached. I know I've been judged, and there are times that I have judged others. We all default to our insecurities at times. That's part of the problem when we feel we are better than someone else, or we don't connect with empathy for others. Our entire gymnastics culture has been affected by strict standards in training and the need to win medals and championships. I felt it, I lived it, and it's been going on for 40 to 50 years. And now here we are. We all have the opportunity to reflect and change and to make our sport better and healthier. In November, I got the chance to talk with one of my former college gymnasts. I truly wanted to listen to her experience. Suffice it to say, she opened up and said how hurt she was and felt that I didn't care about her. Quietly, I had tears rolling down my face, and more than once, I apologized wholeheartedly. You can probably imagine it was very emotional, and thankfully, there was forgiveness, and we started the healing process. At the end, a dark cloud had lifted, and she thanked me and said she felt better, and she wished me well in my life and good luck in this journey of helping to create change in the gymnastics world. On a personal note, she added that her daughter also experienced poor treatment in gymnastics and switched to a different sport because of it. So she knows that things need to change in our gymnastics community. The truth is, we are all human and everyone has flaws. 30 years ago, I was a very young and different person than I am now. Change takes time and effort. I've learned and grown a lot. I've sought out therapy, healing, and educational courses, and I believe it's my calling to be in this sport and to coach athletes in mental training and mental health. I think we need to err on the side of health first for the gymnasts. We all have made mistakes, and if you have been the cause of someone else's pain, if you are silent in the presence of someone else being verbally attacked or abused, if you dismissed an athlete and you didn't believe them or help them when they needed it, perhaps it's time to make amends. I believe we all contribute to the pain and to the healing, and more healing is needed to make a safer experience for every child. Now let's pause for a mental health second. I think we need to take a breath. Are you feeling tense or stressed right now? If so, you need to pause and release it and take care of you, especially if you have a child or you work with children. Don't wait. Create peaceful time for yourself. Go for a walk, soothe your mind and spirit, forgive someone if they hurt you, apologize if you hurt them, and love yourself. Love yourself right through it. Okay, Let's take a breath together to release some tension. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Inhale and hold it. Exhale all the way out. I have to drop my shoulders and make sure I relax. Okay, I hope that felt good for you. Okay, now let's get to the interview. Something happened at East Bay Gymnastics, and today we dive into an experience after Lisa Terry hired a new coach and he arrived at the gym to coach the competitive team in 2023. The tricky part is this coach started out as friendly and funny, and he got the girls and everyone to like him and trust him. But then he turned. When Lisa was traveling or not at the gym, he manipulated everyone. He created a lot of fear and anxiety, and the gymnasts were scared to say anything. He became sharp and angry at times, and it was confusing. He gave a lot of attention to some girls, but then he touched or hugged them in ways that was uncomfortable. He exploded and yelled at other gymnasts and then complained about them in front of other girls, trying to pit them against each other. He followed young gymnasts, preteens, and teenagers on social media and made comments, and it felt creepy to the girls. But no one talked about it openly. Lisa Terry is not able to say the coach's name or too much due to confidentiality, but she shares that you need to trust your gut with anything. She made the mistake of taking a shortcut because she was overwhelmed with all of her coaching and long hours. Listen to Lisa Terry. She takes full accountability for her actions and how she took extra measures to provide help and healing for her gymnasts. In my monologue after the interview, I will share some perspective and advice for you. We start with the ending of part 1, hearing Lisa Terry describe what happens when we inquire with a gymnast and they talk openly about being hurt. Thank you for being here. And now let's go to the show.
That's a hard line
That's hard. Yeah, it's not easy.
because then they might tell you something that they trust you in that moment, and then they tell you something that you have to pass on.
Yes. So, what I make very clear in the work that I do is I'm a mental training and mental health coach. And even if I'm in the capacity of a gymnastics coach, which I have coached gymnastics for many years, is that if I ever hear any information that sounds like there's danger, there's a risk, then together we need to find a way to tell a parent. And that's still letting them know that I'm not going to jump to any conclusion, but together we
Right.
need to figure this out
Yeah.
and tell a parent, because I'm very concerned for your safety.
Right.
And whether that's the eating disorder or self-harm or somebody else is there presenting some kind of risk or hurting them, then these are very serious issues. And this happens in sports, it happens in gymnastics, it happens everywhere. So I sent you this question in advance. There was a coach at your gym that created a safety issue and you had to let him go. What would you like to share about that, if anything?
Well, there's some things I can't share because it's
Yes.
confidential.
Yeah. And because this is for parents and other coaches and people who would like to prevent any kind of safety issue.
Well, okay. Trust your gut. I'm a person of second chances, and I really do see the best in people. I'm not like see the worst in people right away. I always see the best in people and I see potential. I think a lot of us as coaches do that because that's our job. So I tend to see what's underneath. I can see greatness in people. And so that's a fine line because you can quickly slide into the role of an enabler really fast.
And do you think that initially when, especially because a lot of gyms these days are advertising for coaching positions, there's a lot, people are looking for good coaches, high level, people that can spot, people that have experience because they don't want to spend a lot of time training. They want somebody who can kind of easily slip into a team coach position, or it could be developmental or rec. Do you think that a lot of times that we're just looking to fill that spot and then we get very, and I don't want to say complacent. I want to say that we maybe don't do as deep of a dive or
Oh,
like,
100%. 100%. I think for me, I coach from 9 o'clock in the morning until 8:30 at night without a break. And I coach 30 kids. And I coach from level 4 to, I have a kid on the Belgian national team, and I have a kid trying to go junior elite, and that's my day. And I have patched in help here and there, and you feel desperate for help. I walk to gym, come in every single day, taking a deep breath, overwhelmed. So yes, do you shortcut a lot of things? I did. That's a mistake I made. I didn't do the deep dive that I needed to do, and I heard what I wanted to
yeah,
hear.
but you wanted to feel reassured that this
Yeah.
had skills as far as being a gymnastics
Yes.
coach
Yes.
and spotting and could handle the team while you were gone traveling. And
Right.
and then what happened was is it slowly creeped up and the tension became obvious.
The tension was obvious, and I was constantly trying to juggle all the balls of keeping everything okay. And in my own head, uh, probably making excuses. I mean, to be honest, but I didn't have all the information
It
when
sounds
when
like
I
it
when I
felt
knew it
like
became a,
survival. If it
yeah,
sounds
a little
like,
bit. You're trying
yeah,
to juggle all the balls, right? And you're trying
yeah,
to survive. And then something kind of larger happened. And when that happened, everybody started communicating with each other. Then the
yeah,
girls started feeling
started
safe
to
to
open up.
say all the things that they were really feeling
Yeah,
and what was some of the things that were happening. And then some evidence surfaced that I
yeah.
didn't know. And it wasn't hard to make the decision to be done. There were those moments, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like, I'm only one person. But for me, it was a non-negotiable. I mean, I was hanging on for lots of different reasons that
Mm,
were really my own, but something clear had transpired that was like, that's enough. Even though I knew I was going to let the person go, it was just how I was going to do it.
mm,
Anyway, I had people that were supporting me, and those are hard conversations. Having a meeting with the families, and you have to explain to the families what happened and your part in it, and you have to apologize to the family because they do entrust you with your kids and they do want their kids to be safe. And that was a hard thing. But I had a lot of people. You helped me. I had a lot of professionals. A mother on my staff, her husband, one's a psychiatrist and one's a therapist, and they had some really great resources that they put the families in touch with. And the whole issue became an opportunity for us to grow as people and learn. We used it as an opportunity to understand different safety things that kids need to be aware of, and what's appropriate online and what isn't appropriate online. And my advice to parents would be, make sure you know what's going on social media apps.
yeah, so you called me and I ended up coming in and joining you with the team in a meeting in the office to be able to just open up and share what they felt, what they had gone through. And this was another one of those things is finding that deep trust that you can say what hurt, you can say what felt confusing.
When we had the meeting, it was important. We made it really clear that everybody had a voice and there was no judgment, and that people were free to say what they needed to say. They could say what they liked, they could say how they were hurt, they could say whatever those things that they needed to say. I think what ultimately pulled us through, they were able to be vulnerable with each other, and that was important. And we took the time.
Oh
I mean, we
my
took
gosh.
a lot of time away from gymnastics, and we dealt with everything that needed to be dealt with. A lot of time, because it was needed, and gymnastics was on the back burner for us,
And
you know.
on that evening, I think we had two different groups, and there must have been at least 15 kids in
Yeah.
each, and all sitting on the floor or on something in the office upstairs. And I felt so honored to be present. I felt very humbled that I could be part of that healing energy. That it's so important that we give kids the time, the space, and the ability to use their voice so that they can process it, listen to each other, and heal together, because it can be such a lonely, scary thing when you have felt vulnerable with an adult that you didn't have any power, any control.
Right.
And for these kids to be able to have you and for me to be able to be there as well was very, very healing. I thought it
Well, we
was.
were glad to have you. It puts in perspective that gymnastics is not the most important thing in the world. At the end of the day, right? Gymnastics is something that you do, it isn't who you are.
Yeah.
And that's a really important thing. And those moments remind you that you have other people's precious cargo in your care and how important a job it is that we do, because we are with kids more than sometimes their parents get to see them because they go to school and then they're with us,
Yeah.
and we're part of their process. We are not trained to be psychologists. We're not none of those things, but it's
Right.
part of our job. And as we become more aware and more evolved as humans and as people, that sense of responsibility is greater. So for me, that's probably my motivating factor for coaching at the end of the day is gymnastics is a master class for life.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you described that you're there from 9 to 8 or 8:30. You go through the waves of energy, the waves of emotion, and you are trying to contain all of that and be a steady presence for these young developing kids and teenagers. And you
Oh,
know,
sure. And I fail miserably every day because I'm human, just like everybody else. I got my ups, I got my downs. I'm not super zen all the time. I'm passionate, you know.
but you have the mental power station with Zen Tiger, so
I do have that, which always helps us that I can, when I don't have a minute, I can say, go talk to Aura or go pick up Oz, which
oh, do
I
the
do.
positive self-talk. Yeah. Uh,
I've had the real pleasure in my life and the real honor to have moments with people that have really taught me a lot and who make me better and make me see things from a different perspective. And it's always from a human perspective. It's generally not gymnastics for me. It's more about the human. And that is what makes East Bay a little bit different than other
I'm so
places.
glad to hear that, because we all need role models. We all need
Yeah.
somebody who inspires us, motivates us, maybe shines a different light, who gives us another perspective, somebody who is able to be nuanced in saying, well, let's rethink that. There's this other perspective over here. I'm always looking for people who trigger me to rethink something. I like to be better. I'm, as you said, probably my default is being a perfectionist, but
Right. Well, we're in gymnastics. That's how
yeah,
we are, right?
gymnastics did it to me. But I like that energy. I like that energy of wanting to be better.
Me
And
too.
and I also love the energy that we're talking about here in terms of being that kind, patient adult in the kids' lives, that we are here for them to say, I believe in you, and to help them use their voice. There's this quote that I want to say. This is from a parenting book, but I think that this absolutely applies to sports and coaches. And it says, when children are discouraged from having their own voice and
Mm.
following their own leadership, they grow up dependent
Yeah.
on their parent or the authority in the room, because they seek the parents or coach's approval
Yeah.
on most things. They
Correct.
rarely will
Mm.
exercise their potential for self-governance. If they happen to exercise their own sovereignty on occasion, they are often shamed or threatened, which causes them to fall in line.
That's really good and really true.
Isn't that
That's
really?
really good. I tell my athletes, My job, I don't want you to need me. And I love when I can get to that point and say, you don't need me.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me just
That's great. That's
give
really great.
credit to Shafali Sayberry. This is from the Awakened family, and I think she is just a wonderful doctor in our society right now who is teaching parents, especially. She focuses on parent education. But,
That's
you know,
really
yeah, this applies to us as coaches. We often can, you know, it's not intentional. I think most of the time coaches have a very good intention, and
me too.
I appreciate all the coaches out there. I'm one of you. I am a coach too. So we're all in this together, I say, and yet we don't want to dismiss how important it is for these young athletes to have a voice. And then if we don't like what they say, then how can we rethink it? How can
That's such a good question. And that's hard because they will say things you don't like. And I ran that arc and made many mistakes of fighting back with things. I would say I didn't come to this place overnight. Athletes have said things back to me that I didn't like. And
yeah,
I have bitten back. I don't now as as I've learned more, but I am able to say when I've bitten back, I can reflect like you. I remember you just saying, you're reflective. I'm reflective and I can say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
yeah. I think we just have to remember we are the adults.
Right.
The child's mind, their brain is still developing. Their
Yeah.
emotions are often not always in control, and they are learning how to identify their emotions. They are
Right.
learning how to control their emotions, or at least find a way to process
Process
their
them. Yeah.
emotions. And sometimes when they say things we don't like, that's them trying to process.
Correct.
And so we have to really take those things with a grain of salt. If they are all of a sudden emotional and it seems inappropriate for practice, then we need to take a step back and say,
Reset walks are a beautiful thing.
what is?
I call them reset walks. And
Oh,
so we have a name for it in our gym.
reset walk.
Yeah. And do you need a reset walk? And so they will come to me now and say, can I have a reset walk? I just need a reset walk. And that's
Yeah.
they get a water and they walk and they walk around the gym and they reset
Yeah.
and they come back when they're ready.
Well, let's end on that because we will do reset walks throughout our day, I think, and a reset breath. You want to end with a breath here?
I think that's a great idea. Thank you for talking about these things because you and I have talked a lot. It's that side of coaching that we can talk gymnastics and we can talk about all that stuff, but all coaches are dealing with all this and it's hard. It's hard because, like you said, everybody's trying to do the best they can and make the best gymnastics they can. And it's hard.
Well,
It's not easy.
I started to actually get teary and I think I held it in pretty well. But when we were talking about the meetings with the kids,
Yeah.
I have such a heart for the kids. And
They really love you. And there were a lot of tears.
and this is, I think that this is our purpose, is to really be here for the kid. Not doing gymnastics sometimes is the best thing to do.
Yeah. And talk about the hard things that coaches deal with, you know?
All right, my friend.
I appreciate you for doing it.
Thank you.
So proud of you. It's so exciting. I'm so happy for you that you are doing all of this and you're doing what you love. That's and passionate about. It's really exciting. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Let's put our hands on our chest here. This is a sign of safety and love, self-love. And we're going to take a really deep breath. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hold it. And breathe out. Thank you for being with me today.
Love ya. I won't see you Friday. I'll be at the meet.
Okay, sweetie. Have a great weekend. If you've been through something similar, I hope this episode helps you to take the steps you need in order to protect your gymnasts. In the next show, I will talk more about the history-making resolution banning coach verbal and emotional abuse in any school in the state of Utah. It was inspired by the bravery of Kara Aker and Kim Tesson speaking up after the abuse that they experienced on the Utah Gymnastics team. So make sure you tune in to the next show. Time for the highlight from our sponsor, Zen Tiger Mind, a human-centered company providing mental training and mental health programs, equipment, and products for developing confident children and helping athletes to perform better. Our word of the week is dissociation. Dissociation is one way the mind copes with too much stress, such as during a traumatic event. If you dissociate, you may feel disconnected from yourself and the world around you. For example, you may feel detached from your body or feel as though the world around you is unreal. As Steve Magnus writes in his latest book, Do Hard Things, dissociation is the feeling of being detached, as if your mind has hit the eject button to get you through an experience. And now for your consideration. The unspoken information about the abusive coach who was at East Bay Gymnastics is a little difficult to understand, but to be very clear, he coached at other gyms too. I know other gymnasts that he hurt, and he was reported to Safe Sport. Now he is on the suspended list at USA Gymnastics, so make sure you review the suspended and banned list for future hirings. Lisa Terry put her ego to the side and shows us courage. She admits that she took shortcuts in hiring a coach, and she put gymnastics on the back burner to talk with and listen to every gymnast on her team who was scared and hurt. She also bared herself to the parents. She worked with them and with mental health professionals in the healing process. With human nature, it's more common to put up a barrier or personal armor of protection and just get back to gymnastics. But instead of ignoring the weight of an issue and getting back to practice, Lisa Terry invites her gymnasts to an open meeting to talk. A meeting for everyone to listen to each other, support each other, and take turns releasing inner tension and emotions. Deeper, honest, and vulnerable thoughts and feelings. I was there. I had tears during the meeting, listening to these precious young girls. I saw the pain in their eyes, and I heard it in their voices. I felt the heaviness in the office at East Bay Gymnastics as I sat in the quiet while waiting for each girl who wanted to speak, who wanted to feel brave enough to share what she had experienced. We need a more human-centered approach in training and hiring to address mental and emotional issues and safety. We need to practice self-awareness and teach kids to be in tune with their emotions. Parents, it's so important to teach your kids the ways to identify their feelings and the people who threaten their safety. Please monitor your child's social media accounts more closely. We teach young athletes to be tough and to do their best, do what the coaches tell them, and not to complain. But we don't usually teach kids to notice when things go wrong, what to look for, or what to do when it happens. When a coach degrades a gymnast or puts them down, calls them names, or ignores them, or says inappropriate things and blames and shames the gymnast for not trying hard enough, that's when kids feel afraid and unsafe. They are afraid to tell their parents too, because they believe in some way it was their fault. And if they tell, they believe the coach will find out and hate them and be more mad at them in the gym. I suggest you take notice of gymnasts' emotions, see their body language and their lack of focus and motivation. When you ask a gymnast what's wrong, they might answer, I don't know. And if there's a pause, a confused face, or it doesn't sound true, you might inquire further with a gymnast and say, okay, I'm watching you and you don't seem fine. Do you want to tell me what's going on? In my work as a mental training coach, I'm presently working with a 9-year-old gymnast, and she is scared to jump to the high bar. She told her coach, "I'm scared." And the coach said, "Just go for it." And when she didn't, the coach said, "Okay, I'll spot you." But this little girl is still scared with a spot. She doesn't feel safe. And the coach just seems frustrated and doesn't get it. This is exactly the disconnection between coach and athlete. The coach sees the situation through a logical view and the lens of an adult. But we need to look at this through a psychological and emotional view and the lens of a child. The child is scared of the height. She feels pressured by the coach, and she doesn't have any confidence jumping through the air to catch the high bar. When I asked this young gymnast, "How could you feel safer jumping to a bar?" What would you want to say to your coach so that she might understand? And then this little girl, this 9-year-old gymnast, paused and thoughtfully responded, "Can I start in a place that doesn't scare me?" I told her that was brilliant. My advice for today is to pause and look through the lens of a child, her emotional experience, the potential fear that she might feel with her little body flying through the air with no confidence. You can choose to slow down and make it easier for any gymnast who is hesitating or resisting because they want to be successful. And that would be a big difference, a huge difference. They would be excited to come to the gym instead of feeling scared that the coach might make them jump to the bar, especially as they're riding in the car coming to practice. For anyone else that I have coached, the door is open to send me a message and speak with me. We are here together. Let's create more healing. A final note for you. When you think about safety education for your gym, make sure that it is especially designed for children. My friend, Dr. Amy Saltzman, has an amazing program that you can purchase called Spot a Spider. This program is to help children identify predators, and it is also for coaches and parents to help prevent abuse. Well, that's the show. I'm Lisa Mitzel. I'm honored you chose to listen in. Check the show notes for information. Share your thoughts in the comments. Give us a positive rating if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe. Okay, my friends, this is your journey to grow and learn and guide yourself to your own transformation. I am sending you good vibes, deep breaths, and peace.